For long moments, the only sound in the interior of the Honda was the demented howling of the wind. Jared had time to think, well, we're pretty fucked now, aren't we? And then Ray started bawling like a toddler. What the fuck? Tears streamed from his eyes. What the fuck was that shit? Ow, my fucking head! Jared turned to Delmer and gasped. Del's window was smeared with blood and spiderwebbed with a splay of deep cracks. Delmer himself was slouched forward against his seatbelt like a rag doll, unmoving. Jared grabbed his meaty shoulder and pulled him upright. Beneath his shaggy cloud of hair, Del's eyes were half-lidded and rolling senselessly around in their sockets. The right side of his face was slick with blood. His beard was dripping with it. Oh shit. Fuck. Shit. Del's out cold and he's bleeding like a stuck pig, Jared hissed. He spied a plastic grocery bag full of clothes wedged beneath the driver's seat, and he pulled a t-shirt out to use as a tourniquet for Delmer's gushing skull wound. He wrapped it tightly around the unconscious man's head, and Mo sputtered, "Guy, what the fuck? That's a good shirt, bro. Why'd you use that instead of..." "It was the first thing I saw. Who cares anyway, man? It's a shirt. You can get another one." He finished wrapping Del's cranium and snapped his fingers in front of the burly man's slack, twitching face. "Del, can you hear me? Delmer, come on, buddy." "That was a good shirt," Mo sulked. "And my car. My fucking car. My car is ruined, guy." "I'd say so," Jared replied absently. He briskly slapped Del's hairy cheeks and yelled his name. Del sputtered and let out a thick snore. Fuck, he's right out in space somewhere. Jesus. I think he might have broken his skull on the window. "Don't you fucking die on us out here, Del. Don't you dare." "Was an Ed Hardy shirt, guy. It was kind of old, but it was still good. And my car is fucked. It was my baby and now it's totally fucked. Seriously." Mo was babbling. He was in shock. "Mo, hey, come on, get a hold of yourself, man." "Ray, shut the hell up, you're fine. Del isn't. He's unconscious and his head is fucked right up. We've got some very serious problems here." "Why the hell did the stupid deer jump out into the road anyway?" Mo pounded the steering wheel with his fist. "Stupid motherfucker! Aren't they supposed to be hibernating now or something?" "Deer don't hibernate," Jared snapped. "Listen, we gotta get some help. Delmer's in bad shape and the car is toast. I'm gonna call 911 and whatever happens after that, happens. Luca will have to wait." "The deer was getting chased, dog. Didn't you see it?" Ray looked back and forth at the other two with eyes that were wide as saucers. "It was like a little tornado, you know? I've been seeing that shit the entire ride for real. Little tornadoes out in the fields." "You're talking about snow devils. They're not actually tornadoes," Jared muttered, and he pried Del's eyelids open to have a look at his pupils. Ray was referring to the wintry cousin of the dust devil, a small and relatively weak convection current that could lift up light debris from the ground and assume the appearance of a miniature tornado. Jared pulled out his phone and dialed the emergency number. "I didn't see any of that myself, but I guess a deer might get spooked by a snow devil. They aren't the brightest critters." Fuck. Nothing. "I can't get the call to go through. Somebody else try. Come on, hurry up. It's gonna get cold in here fast." "No, you don't get what I'm saying, Jared. That tornado motherfucker was chasing the deer across the fucking field. Like, it wasn't just moving around randomly, and it wasn't a coincidence that the deer was in his way. It was chasing after the deer on purpose, you know? It was on that bitch. I watched it happen. The deer was running like crazy and the fucking tornado thingy was right on its ass. It chased the deer right onto the road and then we started spinning and I think we hit it." Jared scowled and said, "Yeah, I think you're mistaken, bud. How about we don't worry about that stuff right now and somebody fucking calls for help? How about that?" Neither Ray or Mo could get the call to go through. Jared couldn't believe it. What is this, 2002? None of us can get any reception? Bullshit. It made no sense. Was the wind somehow interfering with the signal? Was that even possible? Jared didn't know for sure, but it didn't seem likely. He'd never experienced cell phone problems from high winds before, and he'd never heard anyone else complain of such a thing either. He stared at his phone for a moment, scowling, then tucked it away in his jacket. Jared, what are we gonna do, guy? Jared looked up from his reverie into Mo's scared, glassy-eyed face and almost yelled, I don't know, you dumb fuck. Why are you even asking me? Instead, he rubbed his temples some more and said, We need help, but our phones aren't working, so I guess the only choice left is to wait for someone to come driving by, and we'll try to flag him down. That's all we got right now. The old-fashioned way. Ray shook his head and snorted. We ain't passed nobody for a long time, brah. Ain't nobody out driving today. We're all alone out here, dog. For the first time in the 6 long months that Jared had known Ray, the moron had finally made a concise and valid point about something. They were all alone out here. It was a Sunday afternoon, and most people in those parts didn't have anywhere in particular that they had to be on a Sunday afternoon. Especially on a Sunday afternoon that is beleaguered by drifting snow and had a flesh-freezing wind chill factor. The first vehicle that they were likely to see would probably be a snowplow, and on a secondary road like this one, it could be many hours before that happened. Maybe even longer. Jared immediately pushed this thought away. He said, Well, we still need to make ourselves visible down here, in case some farmer eventually comes putting along in his old Chevy, you know? This ditch is at least 8 feet deep. They could cruise right past and not even see us. I keep a couple safety vests stuffed underneath my seat for work, Mo said. We can tie them to the antenna like flags or some shit, right? Jared reached down and fished the orange, webbed plastic vest from beneath the seat. This is a good idea, man. For real. I'm gonna pop out and put these on the antenna. Then I want to go have a look at something. Keep an eye on Dell. If he starts to puke, make sure he doesn't choke on it. He better not puke, guy, Mo said sternly. Not in my car. No way. What do you want to go look at, yo? Ray asked. Jared briefly considered answering him, then didn't. He pulled on his gloves and hat without a word and jumped out of the car, slamming the door shut as quickly as he could. The sides of the ditch rose steeply on either side, protecting him somewhat from the savage wind that was howling overhead. The sides of the ditch rose steeply on either side, protecting him somewhat from the savage wind that was howling overhead. But it was still cold enough to instantly freeze the mucus inside Jared's nostrils to a painful, icy glaze. The Honda was tightly wedged between the walls of the ditch, nose to tail. There was no doubt that it was a write-off. The frame and body were damaged beyond repair, and a gush of leaking engine fluids had melted a grim rainbow of green and dark brown into the snow beneath the front end. Jared knotted the safety vest onto the antenna as fast as his numb fingers would allow, then shoved his hands into his gloves and started trudging back to the spot where they had hit the deer. Jared wanted to find that doe. Despite his open dismissal of Ray's story, he felt like he needed to take a closer look at it. He trudged through shin-deep snow until he found it, the place where the doe had landed after the whirling Honda had whacked the poor beast, like a ball player hitting a homer, out into the frozen ditch. There was a wide area of disturbance in the snow where the dying animal had struggled to gain its feet. The wind was rapidly sweeping the area back into a uniform smoothness. If 10 more minutes had passed, Jared might have walked right past it. There was a lot of blood. The doe had been gushing the stuff like a waterfall. Jared clambered up the side of the ditch and into the field. Harsh, dirty white pellets of icy snow ripped past his face like a belt sander, making him wince and turtle down into the collar of his heavy winter coat. He took a few steps into the field, and a wind gust slammed into his back, staggering him. It was hard to believe that this barren, tortured landscape would, in a few scant months, blossom into a vibrant utopia of green fields and lush woodlands. Jared scanned the crushed snow around him carefully and spotted a trail of shallow, rapidly disappearing depressions. Hoofprints. Traces of crystalline blood speckled the deer's tracks with dots of twinkling crimson. Shivering, Jared followed the deer's trail out into the massive expanse of frozen field that lay before him, a sprawling landscape of white and wind and nothing. He lurched as quickly as he could through the knee-deep snow, determined to follow the prints to their source. He'd gone this far, hadn't he? Fuck the wind and fuck the snow. Just keep moving. He narrowed his eyes against the rasping fury of the air around him and pushed on, a singular moving speck in a massive sea of dirty white. Jared had almost lost the trail to the wind entirely and was about to give up when he stumbled into an unusually solid little drift in the snow. Beneath the drift lay the body of the doe, stiff and bulge-eyed and dead. It was rapidly becoming just another contour of the white-blanketed field, small and indistinguishable from the dozens of other drifts around it. Jared spied the splintered end of a branch sticking out of the snow, and he used it to sweep the animal's body clear of its heavy shroud. Holy shit, this didn't happen in the accident. Jesus. The doe's hide was riddled with large, ghastly bite punctures and flayed by long, crisscrossing tears, gaping slashes so deep that they exposed frosted muscle tissue and purple bulges of intestine. The poor animal had been savaged. The collision with the Honda had probably shattered bones and hastened its demise, but the doe had already been near death when it had jumped into the road. What sort of predator could have done this? Not coyotes. No way. Not even wolves. They looked like the sort of injuries that a jungle cat would inflict, a toothy carnivore with long, sharp claws. What was it that Ray had said earlier in the car? About how the snow devil had been chasing after the doe? It was on that bitch. That's what he had said. Jared's toes were getting numb in his boots. He had been standing out in the open for far too long. He leaned up against the wind and shuffled back towards the ditch, cupping his gloves over his exposed mouth and nose to ease the rasp of the whirling snow. He was almost halfway there when he spotted the rabbit. The rabbit was about 50 meters to Jared's right and closer to the car than he was. It was small, dark brown, and running with the twitchy speed that only a terrified rabbit can muster. A whirling column of white was hot on its heels, a miniature tornado full of thick, roiling sheets of snow. Jared stopped dead in his tracks and watched the rabbit zigzag and run in circles, a brown, furry blur of panic. The snow devil followed each movement precisely. It was roughly 4 feet across and well over 20 feet in height. It was curiously solid looking. In Jared's experience, snow devils were generally wispy, shapeless things, far too weak to pick up enough snow to assume a definitive shape. You could usually see right through them. This one, it looked different somehow. And there was no doubt about it. The snow devil was actively pursuing the rabbit. In fact, the snow devil was gaining on it. Jared's heart started to pound hard in his chest. He whispered, "Run, you motherfucker, run!" And he broke into a shambling jog himself. The rabbit was on the verge of exhaustion, seeking to cram itself into a hidey hole. The panicked little beast made a desperate scramble for the ditch, and the snow devil swiftly changed course to follow. The rabbit didn't even make it halfway there. The snow devil overtook the squealing creature and snatched it up in the blink of an eye. A moment later, a thick spray of red and brown erupted out from the top of the devil, a glut of guts and fur that arced high into the air. The ferocious wind seized hold of the crimson gush before it had a chance to rain back down to the ground and scattered it. The devil sputtered forward a short distance further, flickering like the picture on an old, worn-out television, then collapsed into a meaningless cloud of red-tinted snow. Jared staggered to a halt again, too stunned to do anything but sway in the wind and gape like a fish at the spot where the snow devil had overtaken, then mulched the rabbit. What in the hell just... Move, asshole. Get moving now. Jared's legs lurched forward and he fought his way back to the ditch. He slid down the icy slope and his face was instantly grateful to escape the razor-sharp punishment of the wind. His nose was starting to sting and ache, as were his fingers and toes. Not good. The doe. What the hell happened to the doe? And what the fuck just happened to that fucking rabbit? But that was something to ponder back in the relative safety of the car, wasn't it? Jared hurried back to the Civic, a silvery ovoid shape ahead that was becoming obscured by a thin blanket of white. He could see Mo's face staring out at him through the window. Jared didn't have the faintest idea what he would say about his foray into the field and what he had seen there. He was going to sound completely crazy. I won't say anything at all if I don't have to. How's that? The blue sky overhead was heavily smudged by ripping torrents of wind-driven snow. The sun was a dim, weak little disk hovering in the far side of the heavens, distant and frigid. The afternoon was beginning to wane towards the pitch black of a moonless winter night, and the temperature was plummeting. It seemed likely that this particular country road would remain untraveled until morning came. There was a very real possibility that they would be spending the night trapped in an unheated car, while something unknown stalked the fields around them, relentlessly searching for hot, living meat. Something concealed within a twisting column of snow. Something with claws and teeth.